This video isn't a guide on how to identify a load-bearing wall or a demonstration on how to demolish a load-bearing wall. This video is for average homeowners who are considering altering the layout of their property and are worried about the cost of taking down a load-bearing wall. I have been a self-employed architect in the UK since 2009, and I have lost count of the number of walls I have demolished over the years, both load-bearing and non-load-bearing. I have altered the layout of properties that are over 200 years old, as well as properties built in recent years. Stone, brick, block, concrete and timber frame construction, I've carried out demolition works on all of them. I've met a lot of homeowners who worry that taking down load-bearing walls will cost an enormous sum of money compared to taking down a non-load-bearing wall. This isn't true, and to understand why, you have to think about other things which will be affected when a wall is demolished. The adjacent floor, walls and ceilings will be damaged and will need to be repaired. If there are any electrical fittings or wires in the wall, those need to be made safe or rerouted. If there are plumbing pipes near the wall for radiators, those might be damaged and need to be repaired or rerouted. In older buildings, the floors in adjacent rooms are often sagged at slightly different levels, so when the wall between the rooms is removed, significant work is required to bring the lower floor up to the same level to avoid a trip hazard. These tasks will need to be done whether that wall is load-bearing or not. Let's look at two examples. Wall number 1 is load-bearing. Wall number 2 is not load-bearing. In all other respects, they are the same. They are 4 meters long, they are in an older property, and they both contain electrics and plumbing, which will need to be moved. A typical 152 by 89mm mild steel beam will cost less than £40 per linear metre, so the steel required to prop wall 1 will cost about £160 to supply. The builder needs to provide several acro props, strong buoys, and needles either side of the wall to carefully take it down over the course of a couple of days. Acro props cost about £4 per day to hire, 8 are required for 5 days, that comes to £160. Strong buoys and needles will be about the same, another £160. Two builders' time for a day to put up the acro props and take down the wall, and another day to install the new steel and remove the acro props comes to £1,000. Now let's look at the other tasks that have to be carried out for each wall. An electrician will need to visit the site before demolition to make the wiring safe. The builder won't want his guy getting electrocuted. That's £250. The electrician will also need to visit the site again after the demolition to reroute the light switch from the demolished wall to an adjacent wall. Another £250. A plumber will need to disconnect the radiator on the wall and make the pipe safe prior to demolition. £200. Once the wall is down, the rubble will need to be disposed of in a skip. £200. The floor will need to be made level so the transition from one room to another is seamless. There are several ways of doing this, but let's assume the joiner lays 9mm plywood over the lower area and then pours self-leveling compound to bring it all to the same level. Labour and materials will be about £500. The adjacent wall and ceiling have been destroyed by the demolition works. These need to be made good so they can accept decoration. It might take a skilled tradesman 2 days to reline all the affected areas at a labour cost of £600 plus the material cost of £300. Finally, the decorator will have to paint both rooms, walls and ceilings. £600. All told, wall 1, which is load-bearing, cost £4,380. Wall number 2, which is not load-bearing, cost £2,900. Remember, those figures are before value-added tax. Taking down the load-bearing wall cost £1,480 or about 50% more than the non-load-bearing wall. In the grand scheme of things, taking down a load-bearing wall is not a major issue, and homeowners should not plan alterations to their properties on the basis of avoiding load-bearing walls. This is the kind of work any experienced and competent builder has done hundreds of times. It's no big deal. Remember, the figures quoted here are relevant to the UK in 2021. Before you commit to altering the layout of your property, seek advice from an architect and structural engineer. I would love to hear from anyone with similar experiences in other countries. If you have taken down a load-bearing wall, please post the costs in the comments section. My name is Neil and I am a real-life architect specialising in altering private homes in the UK. If you want to see more, hit subscribe.